Monday, August 19th. Wake up, wake up. Larry, good morning. Oh, my
Good
goodness.
morning.
I've got a kindergartner. We're starting a little late today because I had to drop off Jack and I had to calm down Mom after all that. I'm very proud to say, Larry, not even a quivering lower lip. My man took his first day at kindergarten like a champ. I don't think I've ever been more proud watching my kid walk away, no tears. He's ready for kindergarten, and the 49ers are trying to get ready for a regular season. So I like it. Everybody's getting
it's a great day, and everybody knows that that first day of kindergarten can go a lot of ways. I mean, it's funny. My mother used to tell the story that she brought me to kindergarten, and I took 2 steps through the door, dropped my jacket on the floor, and never turned back and looked at her, and she just left. And she's like, I just dropped you off and you didn't even wave. You didn't look at me. I was waiting for a big emotional, teary, I'll miss you, Mom. And instead you just walked off and didn't wave, didn't do anything. And I just left. And I'm like, oh, sorry, Mom.
I'm proud to say my son was in the same camp. Not even a hesitation. Didn't even hesitate. The way Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles was like hesitating before he would move out of his stance. But anyways, we'll get into all that. Look, welcome everyone. It's wonderful to have you here. It feels like football season's officially getting closer because it is. We are 2 games through the preseason, and we're here to talk about what we learned last night, what we didn't learn last night, who popped, who showed, and we'll try to find some meaning in an otherwise meaningless football game. First of all, Larry, let's just start with this. I'm not one of those bubble wrap your starting quarterback in the preseason guys, but if you are going to play your starting quarterback, I would like some semblance of a starting offensive line in front of him. Given the circumstances, I was surprised that Brock Purdy was allowed to play in this game. And then really, if we're talking about his 3 series of work, what a waste of an afternoon for Brock Purdy. That was, you're looking for meaningful developmental practice reps, and Brock Purdy, he got hit. He got his jersey dirty, and I guess there's some good to that, but not a lot of work for Brock Purdy in that offense. It didn't look good while he was out there. I'm not pointing any blame. I'm not inferring a direction the season's about to go in.
What are you inferring exactly?
Kind of a wasted
what's your mode here? What are you trying to get at? Yeah, no, it's funny. Some of the people on Twitter, one of the guys like, hey, you take away the Avengers and Brock Purdy's just another. Here it is. Kevin Poehler. Purdy without the Avengers is a below average quarterback, my friend. It's like, no. First of all, if you take away every team's best players, they're not as good. I mean, Patrick Mahomes did lose a Super Bowl when he didn't have his offensive tackles. So it is a team sport, and it's not like the other guys and the other 52 guys in the roster are just there for window dressing. You know what I mean? It's sorry, that's not the way it works. But nobody's going to look as good without their surrounding cast. That's just a fact. As far as Brock Purdy, what are we supposed to look at that and go, oh, he was 2 for 6 for 11 yards behind a makeshift line that had like 2 of the 5 starters, and missing out were a number of his key weapons, including Brandon Aiyuk, and obviously he doesn't have his left tackle. So I mean, the surrounding cast around him wasn't great, but they didn't game plan. They're not trying to beat the Saints. They're just trying to shake off the rust and get ready for the regular season. So what you saw last night and regular season ball are only loosely related.
What is that naked bootleg call getting into the play sheet for? Like, what, are you serious? Like, I thought that there was some careless, some careless nature around their most precious resource. So I didn't like Brock Purdy's night.
But he does that game. That's his play, right?
I didn't like the way that Brock Purdy was used in that game. It was an absolute waste of time for him. He probably shouldn't have played. Had Having said all
that's
that,
his play. He does that bootleg play. You know what I mean? If that,
right.
they run that play. I mean, that's one of their plays. I know what you're saying though. It's a naked boot for your quarterback operating without his left tackle and without his weapons, really. But Shanahan puts a lot on Brock to be able to protect himself, and he does let's be honest about it. Brock Purdy, I think, does as good a job as any quarterback in the NFL at protecting himself. When you really think about it, the length of his career and all the games we've seen him start, he gets away well. He throws it away. He's not I'm going to hold it till the end of time and take some monster hit. He's not CJ Beathard at the end of every play. You're like, man, that guy's tough.
Right.
He's not that guy.
What that he threw on the naked boot is another show we could do, saying that's a pass that he kind of needs to eliminate or at least pull back in for only break in case of emergency moments. But that is just violating every rule in the textbook as to what a quarterback shouldn't do on a field. But look, it just, I know that you and I have been accused of being like Niner or Purdy homers. We'll tell you when he wasn't good, that was not a good night for that version of that starting offense, whatever that was. The Niners looked better as the game went along. Dobbs and Allen both appointed themselves well. We got to see Mordecai. We got to see Cowing. Dominic Puni was the best offensive lineman that the 49ers put on the field last night. We can talk an awful lot about that there, but I just thought it was for a game that was being played under the circumstances of they had to cancel joint practices. What are you having Moody kick a 24-yard field goal for instead of giving Dobbs a 4th and goal rep? Like, I just don't understand what were the Niners trying to accomplish last night?
They're a little bit I agree. They're a little bit in a preseason fog where the motivations go from play to play, series to series, quarter to quarter, game to game. You know what I'm saying? There's no rhyme or reason. Don't try to make sense of a lot of this. But by the way, if we're going to be in one camp, for a quarterback who's 17-4, has been already in the MVP conversation, has been in 2 years to 2 NFC Championship games and 1 Super Bowl, I'd rather be in that corner of, yeah, they're glowing often in their evaluation of Purdy than the guy who's somehow ripping that guy. If your business and your channel is based on your ripping Brock Purdy, good luck to you. Good luck to your channel. That's what I would say, because he's been pretty damn good. And if that's the premise for your channel, you're going to have a lot of lonely nights. But I thought the quarterbacks were a big story last night. I really did. And I think last night's game, Damon, decided a lot of things. Like, let me give you a couple right off the rip that I really think, based on what I've seen thus far. I love Cody Schrader, but I think Cody Schrader's ticketed for the practice squad. He's been a step slow. He's been operating behind an offensive line that's not quite doing it, so he hasn't had great holes to run through. He's not quite an NFL athlete. He's maybe a half a step below an NFL athlete. And as much as I loved him at the beginning, now I'm really intrigued this week to see what Guerrero looks like in practice in the Raider game. And I think if it's 5 running backs, let's just say, Juice, CMC, JP Mason, and Mitchell are 4. That 5th one I had going to Schrader. Now I think I would give it probably not to Schrader. I don't know if I would give it to Breida or, maybe Breida, maybe Keyshawn Vaughn, maybe Isaac Guerrero. So we'll see. And maybe not Guerrero. If Guerrero can't get healthy, maybe Guerendo's ticketed for IR and Schrader goes to practice squad. But I'm now of the belief, Damon, that even though he was very high profile at Missouri and a lot of people liked him as an undrafted guy, I'm of the belief that Schrader would get through waivers. So that's one. I think he's just on the outside looking in.
I actually, hold on, Larry, just to follow up on Schrader, I think you could see the team is trying to figure it out. Like they were feeding him and force feeding him. And you could say it was a bodies issue that they did that, but you could see they were trying to use him in different phases of the game on special teams. And as a running back, they tried to throw him the ball as well a couple of times. He did not appoint himself well when he actually had the ball, but he moves kind of like an NFL player. Like I would like to see him with the ones. I bet you his production would go up with a better team around him for sure. You know, you could say that about a lot of guys. I think he's got a place on this team, but it might start from the practice squad. I would agree with you there. It wasn't for a night where a few young guys needed to flash to change opinions about them. Cody Schrader, not that anyone has a real opinion about him. He's too new at it, but Ronnie Bell, I'm sorry, man. You're working your way off this roster. And there's another guy who I think really worked his way into being part of game plans this year.
Who's that?
And that was Jacob Cowing.
Yes, he was very strong. And what you guys saw, what we all saw last night is what the media has seen the last 2 or 3 days of practice. And if you were there the first day he was there, the first day of Cowing's practice with the Niners, he looked phenomenal. Like 5-6 catches, making separation all over the field, an array of different catches. Concentration catches in a crowd, in the air, off the turf. I mean, he looked really, really good. Then he suffered the hamstring. Then he came back for a couple days and was like, maybe 50% or 40%. Now, the last week or so, he's gotten over the hamstring, or at least more over it, and he's made an impact in practice. And then he caught 4 balls on 5 targets for 51 yards, and then also had a 19-yard end around. Yeah, he looks good. In fact, to me, the wide receiver thing is Debo, Aiyuk if he's there, JJ, Pearsall, and Cowing. Those are my 5 wide receivers. And then I would probably go with a 6th. And that's the question, is who is that 6th wide receiver? Is it Tay Martin, who, hasn't done much in the preseason? He almost had a big game last week. I really like Tay Martin. He caught 2 of the 3 balls that threw his way. Ronnie Bell, you mentioned, only caught 2 of 7 passes thrown his way. Danny Gray was thrown 3 passes. He caught 1. He's done very little in his short career. Then there's Trent Taylor, who, gives you a return security blanket that Kyle Shanahan is going to yearn for. So I would say it's probably those 5 wide receivers, including the 2 rookies. If they go with the 6th, it's probably Chris Conley or Trent Taylor. And the rest of those guys are probably going to be cut. And then I thought at tight end, we didn't see Pline catch 1 pass. I talked to him in the locker room afterwards. Good dude. But I think, it's Kittle's your 1, Eric Saubert as your blocker is your 2. And then, Tungus has had a really good camp. Willis caught 3 balls last night. But I kind of think, I know this is going to sound crazy, but I kind of think, just based on everything I've seen, that I would probably try to roll with Cam Latu. I know a lot of people would say, well, Tungus has caught the ball better. Yeah, Tungus is 227 pounds. I mean, he's not – I don't think Tungus is got an NFL, body or torso to be able to block anybody. He's just a little undersized. Willis, the same. He's a little undersized, and he's been okay, but not spectacular. Latu, I thought, at least is big, strong. He caught 3 balls. Maybe Kittle, Sauerbert, and Latu with Pline on the practice squad, something like that.
This can be a little cringe-inducing, but I don't think there's a lot to like in that player. I really don't. He's a better athlete than those other guys, though. He's a bigger, stronger guy than Tungus or Willis. You're probably right. I mean, maybe they'll go for somebody else around the league. That gets cut or traded. I could see that too. Just keeping backup tight ends based on size. Pline's the man, because he is. Yeah, I would go with Pline, but I get the feeling the way they've handled Pline, Damon, that they like Pline and are trying to squeeze him onto the practice squad because let's just say this. He's played a huge role in the practices and gets the ball often, but in the preseason, he hasn't touched the ball. And I think that's by design. Well, I'll tell you who the biggest winner of last night's game was. Not that you can win a preseason game. You can only escape from it without injury, in which case it was fantastic. But it was Trent Williams. Trent Williams needs to be in Niners camp as soon as possible. Like, we all knew that before we saw that game. The left side of that offensive line at times appeared non-functional. You had Chase Young looking like he was back at Ohio State. First of all, you know that he was motivated to come on out and play well in the stadium where he dogged it in the NFC title game and essentially signed his own ticket out of town in that moment. That's where Kyle gave up on him and he never came back. Even though he had a halfway decent Super Bowl, Chase Young came out motivated to play against backups, and he looked like a world beater coming against that left-hand side of the line. So that needs to be a serious,
it was Jalen Moore just having a rough day at the office. I mean,
Jalen Moore is pretty good, right?
He's all right. He's all right.
He's not bad, but he had a bad game. Chase Young had a really good game. The left side of the line, man, I think it showed
Saints have a good line.
It showed the value of Aaron Banks. You take Aaron Banks out of that equation, things change an awful lot. And Dominic Puni, Larry, he was their best offensive lineman last night. Did you see, I'm sure you have, the Guy Haberman video? Haberman just recorded Puni basically finding himself in space and then curling around McKivitz to give Dobbs another heartbeat to get a ball off on a fourth and goal or an end goal play. And it was just, you always talk about a guy operating in space. Well, what do you mean? Well, that's the textbook example. There was nothing to do in front of him. And instead of just standing there, he pivoted. He looked for something to do. You got big man pirouettes. Dominic.
Yeah, I was going to say the Puni pirouette.
Yeah, he might not. He might not
the way you turn, but yeah. I mean, it was.
He might not start week one.
No, I think he is going to start week one.
Well, because it's the Jets and you got a big time
defense. No, I don't know. I think John Lynch went on KMBR yesterday morning, and when talked about Puni, he used the term plug and play. So, the Niners have missed a lot in the draft. Come on, the 22 draft outside of Purdy was really bad. They've struggled at times. Lynch has had some, he knows how difficult drafting is, and they really, really like their 2023 most recent draft. And I heard him tell the morning show, hey, you know what? Dominic Puni's a plug and play guy, and they haven't had a lot of plug and play guys. I mean, you got to go back a while. So, and I think that's exactly right. I think, and that was the exact thought I had when I talked to him in minicamp, because mentally he's smart. He's played all 5 spots at different times at Kansas. That's always a good sign. Great athlete, great play disposition, looking to hit, looking to collide, looking to, make an impact. And he's nasty. He's got a nasty finishing kind of mentality, and he's very mature. So all those traits add up usually to a plug and play guy. You never know, because the O-line's always complicated. But so far, so good. And he looks good, and he doesn't look like a fish out of water, and he's being aggressive, and he's not making, a lot of false steps. And when he's unsure, he's staying physical and aggressive, which that's the way to do it. Because you're going to have unsure moments as a rookie offensive lineman, but as long as you kind of take the fight to the D line, you're always going to be, and maintain your positioning. You're going to be just fine. And the Saints line last night, I mean, they played their guys. Carl Granderson, Cam Jordan, Chase Young, Isaiah Foskey, all these guys on their front line. These guys all played. They played, and they played. Their starter, or the Niners starting offensive line played the entire first half. I didn't see exactly the Saints substitution pattern, but they had all their guys out there. So it was their ones, and it's a really better than average defense, and it's a better than average line. So, and the Niners were out there with a makeshift line,
which is another reason why just exposing Purdy was just. It
was Purdy's call. It was Purdy's call because
Shanahan left me scratching my head on that one. What would you say it is you accomplished here tonight, Kyle, outside of not getting your starting quarterback hurt? Because that was the most on the line, and your guy got. How about this? Brock Purdy was hit more times than he completed passes. So that was a bad showing. It really was. And
well, what's the choice?
The choice.
What's the alternative? To sit him in
protection. Don't play him until there's proper protection. That's the choice. That's the smart choice.
Well, I don't know if that's a smart choice because you might not have proper protection at any point in the next. There's only one more preseason game left. Believe it or not, these guys do need to practice. So he needs some practice. Well, and there's no guarantee that Trent's going to be there for the first month. So what do you tell Purdy, you know what, Brock? We're going to play you in week 6 because we're not going to have a good offensive line until week 6.
No, you just don't.
So he's going to have to operate behind some bad line, most likely. So
you don't lay your money down on the table to gamble until you're really gambling. And to me, playing Purdy behind your offensive line that is patchwork is a gamble that is an unnecessary preseason gamble. Brock Purdy gets a lot of practice. You're there watching it all the time. The preseason,
but it's not the same as the game.
Right, but the preseason game itself is probably the least important part of the practice week to the squad. Kyle already told you he values joint practices more than he values these preseason games.
But that's different. That's just because you can sit there and say, hey, you know what? I want to work on our goal line, plays because we're terrible on the goal line. Okay, but Kyle, well, we want to work on our kickoff return. So you can map it all out and get all the reps you want perfectly. But my whole thing is that, okay, it's a 3-game preseason. You didn't play him in the first game. And we all know that third game in the new realm with 3 games in the preseason has become a bigger joke than the fourth game was when it was 4 games, right? So now this third game is truly like if you have any clout at all, for the most part, you don't play after the first quarter. So, they got to get him some practice. This was the game, the second game, where you were going to play your starters maybe an entire half. So this was the game to get him out on the field. I mean, more so than last week and more so than next week.
I just think that when, that everyone's got a plan and then circumstances when they change should maybe change that plan. I wouldn't have minded Kyle waiting to the Raider game to give Brock Purdy his full quarter of run or whatever. And look, I really think you probably would have sent him back out there for a 4th series had not Derek Carr gone on a 12-play length of the field drive that sort of cooled everyone down. And then Kyle's probably thinking, well, yeah, it's been pretty much a disaster at this point, so we're just going to pull the plug here and just sit down, Brock. Look at it this way. If that was Brock's very important preseason work, it was a fucking disaster. Okay?
Well, it wasn't successful.
Brock needed that to be good, then he's about to have a bad year. So I don't think he really needed that at all. I think it just exposed him to unnecessary risk behind an inferior line against a team that's got a good D line and is playing their ones.
He would disagree with you because he did disagree with you in the post game. He was asked, "Did you need this?" And he said, "Yeah, I needed this. This is what I needed."
And look,
it was his call. It was totally his call.
You got to get hit, and he got hit 3 times. If you need a little contact to sort of pull you into a season. Okay, that's good. That happened. But just, there's an awful lot riding on that kid's health. I was surprised that it was exposed as much as it was.
In the old days, they didn't even play Jimmy. Man, if you remember, Jimmy would never play without Trent. They treated Jimmy like Jimmy was a star.
I think
he was nothing close.
That would be the right way to do. I would give Brock Purdy your star treatment because he is your star. Jimmy was a comet. He shone brightly in the sky and then he fizzled out. This is supposed to be the North Star of your franchise for a long time. So
yeah, but here's the thing. You're only going to play, he's one guy on the team. The whole thing is set up for your starters to play the most in the second preseason game. So if you're going to play Brock at all, and I suggested that he didn't need any practice as far as the preseason games. Based on what I've seen, I would have been comfortable just rolling him out there week 1. But he wanted to be out there. He wanted to kind of feel the fire, and so be it. Now he played, 2 of 6 for 11 yards, 42.4 passer rating. He was sacked once. He had guys all around him most of his brief appearance. Then we saw Dobbs. Dobbs came in, 12 of 21, 133 yards. It really cracked me up in the postgame because Dobbs, had a pretty decent game. 12 of 21 is not terrible, and no touchdowns. But he did have a rushing touchdown.
Rush for touchdown.
He had 3 carries for 25 yards, so 8-3 a carry, and he did have a 13-yard run, and he had a touchdown on the ground. And people are just loving Dobbs in the post game. It's hilarious. And then Brandon Allen came on in the third quarter, and he played well. He was 7 of 10, 36 yards, no touchdowns, but there were a couple drops in there, I think, mixed in. But, overall, I thought Brandon Allen was very accurate. Then Tanner Mordecai comes in the fourth, and he starts 4 for 4, finished 4 for 6 for 44 yards, was also sacked one time, did get away one time, but I guess he was -2 on that run. So he had only the 2 runs for -2 yards. But I thought he looked good. I thought he looked really good. And I talked to him in the locker room afterwards. And, to me, this is going to be a really interesting, if you're debating like the Niner roster and what it's going to look like, it starts at quarterback. It's like Brock's your 1, and then there's nothing but question marks. It's like, is Brandon Allen the number 2 quarterback, or is Josh Dobbs the number 2 quarterback? And then let's just say it's Brandon Allen. Then do the 49ers make Josh Dobbs the 3rd string quarterback and keep him on the roster? Do they make Josh Dobbs the 3rd string quarterback and subject him to waivers and put him on the practice squad? Do they, you know what I mean? Do they make Tanner Mordecai the 3rd quarterback and put him on the practice squad? Does he scoot through waivers? So I today, Damon, on the 19th of August, I would say, based on what I know, I would say that Josh Dobbs today is more likely to be claimed off waivers on the 27th of August than Tanner Mordecai. But that could change if Mordecai had a high-profile 3rd preseason game, or if Dobbs had a bad preseason game. But I thought Dobbs in 2 games has shown enough where I don't know that he sneaks through waivers. My guess is that Dobbs would be claimed. What do you think?
So I think Tanner Mordecai is completely irrelevant to the 2024 season for the San Francisco 49ers. I don't care what happens to Tanner Mordecai one way. To me, this is about a good and healthy QB2 competition, because you got 2 guys who really could do the job. And the job of QB2 isn't starting quarterback goes down, we're still in the Super Bowl. No, starting quarterback goes down, you're fucked. So really, QB2 is only about, if your starting quarterback were to miss a month, can you go 2-2? I think Dobbs could go 2-2. I think Allen could go 2-2. I think they're both well suited to be QB2 for the 49ers, but which flavor do you want? Do you want an improviser who can work better when things go wrong around him and play off schedule football? I think that's Josh Dobbs. Do you want someone who is more in tuned for the prototype quarterback that Kyle wants in his system? That's definitely Brandon Allen. So what does Kyle value in terms of skill set in his backup quarterback? Does he want someone who could do it a little differently and improvise, or come in and be that plug and play similar to the way that Brock played? I think it almost depends on the circumstances. Like if it were a healthy, no one else is hurt but Brock Niner team, Brandon Allen might be the better guy. But if Trent Williams hasn't come in, Brandon Aiyuk is still holding in or out or whatever we're calling it by then, and the team doesn't quite look like itself, and you got to buy a little bit more time with your feet because the offensive line isn't stabilized, then maybe it's Dobbs. What I do know is that it feels like they'll have a healthy, decent QB2. Not that you ever want to turn to a QB2 or say it's your show from here, but I think they're going to be okay. I do. And I just don't think Tanner Mordecai is a part of the QB2 conversation in any way. Unless
he's not today, but he should be. He should be. And here's why he should be. Because those 2 guys stink. and that's official.
Oh, I don't know if they stink.
Well, I would say you stink if you're 3-11, and that's what Josh Dobbs is.
But Josh Dobbs has been on 4 different teams in the last 12 months.
All the more reason that you probably should not be 3-11. That means you've been on a bunch of different teams. So it's like he's the common denominator. He's 3-11.
I'm not going to hold Josh Dobbs' problems as a starting quarterback and record against him to try to talk about him being a bad quarterback. I just think that's
everybody else has to answer for their stats. He's the one guy who doesn't have to answer for his stats. He's 3-11. And
he's had 4 playbooks.
And Brandon Allen's 2-7.
He shows how many of those games that he lost did he not even get a full week of practice before he was starting for the Minnesota Vikings?
I don't know, but 3-11 is not close to 500. That's a couple wins and a whole lot more losses.
He's been in really bad teams. He's been in really bad situations. He
has not been on really bad teams. He's been on good teams. He's been on the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's been on some decent teams. He's just not a great quarterback. I mean, Josh Dobbs is a
backup quarterback.
He's a resume quarterback. You look at that and you're like, oh yeah, he's athletic enough because look, he ran this and he jumped that. Oh, he's smart enough. He's an aeronautical engineering major. You look at that resume and you're like, oh my God, this guy's athletic as hell. Oh my God, this is the smartest quarterback in the league. His resume in a lot of ways is the best, but it doesn't mean he's the best. He's 3-11. And Brandon Allen, I like Brandon Allen, does some nice things. He's 2-7 in 9 starts. So these guys have had chances and they've lost a lot of games. I think they're both fine. Like, I think you could get by with Allen. I think you could win a couple games. I think you could get by with Dobbs. You could win a couple games. My question is, do the Niners keep them both? And does Dobbs or Allen get through waivers? And I just kind of think that Dobbs does enough good things and has enough good film this summer that he probably won't slip through waivers. So he's going to have to, if you really want Josh Dobbs as your on your roster, you're going to have to go with 53, or you're going to have to go with 3 quarterbacks on your 53.
You're going to have to roster him. Then
that's going to be a problem.
But I just think that you just sort of stepped on your own argument. If he wouldn't clear waivers, that means he has NFL value. Another team would come after him.
Doesn't mean in my opinion, he has notoriety. He's name recognition. He's branding. People might take a look at him, but I personally think that Mordecai's better than him. And I think, and I've seen it on the practice field. He's been more accurate. He throws a better deep ball. He's faster. He's processing better.
Look at it this way.
He's got a better arm. He doesn't throw as many floating wobblers. But he's young, and I asked Greasy about it, and Greasy's like, "Hey man, we're trying to win the Super Bowl. We're probably not going to go with a rookie as our number 2 quarterback." So, but he looked good last night, did he not? I mean, Tanner Mordecai looked pretty good last night. Or what?
Enough. I mean, he threw 6 passes. He completed 4. I am hardly ready to write the book of Tanner Mordecai and what is about to be. And look, if the team really thought that he was the guy, how come he didn't come out? How come he was the 4th quarterback off the deck in a game where, if Kyle in his own mind had any thought that Tanner Mordecai could be groomed to have a roster spot this year, we would have seen more than 6 passes at the end of the 4th quarter, right?
I could have made that same claim about Brock Purdy 2 years ago. If he was really the guy, we wouldn't be seeing Nate Sudfeld. We'd be seeing.
No, but there was an established QB in front of him. There's totally different circumstances.
Brock Purdy's not an established QB in front of him? He is.
But you're testing out to see whether or not Tanner Mordecai can play in the league. He's a total unknown. He's an NFL unknown. I don't think he is now a known NFL entity or property.
No, all I'm saying is he looks better than these guys in practice, I think, and he looked pretty good in the game.
So if your argument is he's better in the things you haven't seen yet, Damon, then
I'm saying that 2 years ago, nobody thought Brock Purdy was any good, and everybody was like, Nate Sudfeld. And here we are 2 years later, and Nate Sudfeld's fucking gone. Right, and Brock Purdy's playing pretty well. And all I'm saying is this guy is pretty similar in a lot of ways. That's what I'm saying.
Nate Sudfeld went to Indiana. If there was any reason to have ever been excited about him, I would have told you. There was no reason to ever be excited about Nate Sudfeld. I don't know who was. I don't know what you're referencing at all.
The Niners were. They guaranteed him $3 million. And then they basically said, oh, you know what? Here, take the $3 million, and there's the door. We're going with Brock Purdy. I'm just saying, Dobbs and Allen are – we don't know what Mordecai is, but we kind of do know what those guys are. And those guys aren't NFL starting quarterbacks and are not been successful as NFL starting quarterbacks and haven't won games. Dobbs last year in that Bears game was the worst freaking quarterback in the history of football. I mean, he seriously threw 4 or 5 picks in that game, and he could have thrown 7. I mean, he was horrible. And that was late in the year. Now, early in the year, he looked good against the Niners. He beat Dallas in week 2 in Dallas, I think. So, I mean, Dobbs had some good moments, and Dobbs has talent. And Dobbs has got athleticism and smarts, but his deep ball wobbles. His processing is a little slow, and there's a reason that he's 3-11. You know what I mean? I think that'll be my point. But you know what? In this offense, with Shanahan calling the plays, you need a 6-game stretch. Maybe he can go 3-3, and maybe Brandon Allen can go 3-3. And according to Greasy, that's what they're looking for. But the question I would have is, do they carry so many receivers and so many extra offensive linemen and so many extra corners? I think they ought to go with 7 corners because they got a bunch of good ones. Can they carry 3 quarterbacks, or will they go with 2? And try to squeeze that third guy to the practice squad. That to me is the interesting thing.
Are you going to go with 1 Tanner Mordecai jersey, or are you going to go with 2? Have home and away. You're the biggest Tanner Mordecai fan I've ever heard in my life.
I love Tanner Mordecai. Seriously, I think Tanner Mordecai is a really exciting prospect. Why?
Tanner Kruger guy.
Because he is like, first of all, if you talk to him, like I've interviewed all these guys, right? I've interviewed Brady. I've interviewed Cousins. I've interviewed Breeze. I've interviewed Russell Wilson. They all have the same damn thing. They're kind of like incredibly humble, very smart. They defer all the good to their teammates. They take all the blame. They're very mentally mature. Alex Smith was kind of like this. That's what Brock Purdy's like. He's not going to blame his offensive line. He's never going to blame a receiver. He's always going to blame himself. He just is wired the right way.
Yep.
And then you talk to Mordecai and you're like, wait a second. This guy is a veteran, played a lot of college football. His college coach at Wisconsin, I told him in the locker room last night, I said, Luke Fickell told Brian Greasy that if there was one guy at Wisconsin he would have banged the table for in this last draft, it was going to be you. And he said that? I didn't even know he said that. He goes, oh, that's cool that he said that. Well, you know, and this is a guy who broke his hand on his throwing hand 5 weeks before the LSU bowl game, the ReliaQuest Bowl. Didn't sit it out because he had to go get ready at Exos for the NFL draft. He played 5 weeks later against LSU's defense, threw for 378 yards and 3 touchdowns and no interceptions, 5 weeks after breaking his hand. So to me, that kid's wired right. All the short stuff and intermediate stuff, Damon, that I'm seeing in these practices, everything is Brock Purdy 2022, right between the numbers, making every drill look like he designed it and he's mastered it more so than Dobbs and Allen and even at times Purdy. This guy's got 4.46 speed. He's got 4.46 speed. So when he takes off and runs, he's fast. He's faster. Tanner Mordecai has better speed than 85% of the 49er wide receiver core. So I liked what I saw, and I'll be very interested to see if they either bury him, don't play him next week, and squeeze him through waivers, or if by chance they give him a shot. I don't think they're going to give him a shot. I think he's going to be the practice squad guy. But, man, he looks good. He looks good. And when you talk to him, there's a lot of Brock Purdy there, man. Smart, calm. Just you can go on YouTube and watch the interview I did with him last night at his locker. Just very, I felt like I was interviewing somebody who's like 26, 27. He's just a very mature kid. So
folks, we sure hope you enjoyed the Tanner Mordecai portion of today's show. It was brought to you by Larry Krueger. And by the way, for those
when this guy can play, come on back and give me my flowers. That's all I would say.
Okay. I have to here. Let me make that comment go away right there. See the Sam's on top and the Sam's on the bottom. We have a little announcement to make. This show, Wake Up, which will be coming to you 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, has found a sponsor, and we will officially begin our relationship in September. But Larry and I are so excited to welcome aboard Sam's Chowder House, a place that the both of us have been going, not just personally, but professionally for years. We used to do 49ers post game from Sam's Chowder House a million years ago, Larry, and we were both thinking of a sponsor, and we knew that Paul Shankman, his wife, Julie, really liked us, the shows that we've done in the past, and we went down there and talked to Paul, and he was all about it. He's really excited, and so are we, to tell everybody all football season long about maybe the most perfect California restaurant there has ever been, Sam's Chowder House in Half Moon Bay. We love it. They're on board with us, and we will be telling you an awful lot more about them when we get closer to September and football season. But welcome to our sponsor of this season, Larry, Sam's Chowder House. I know you're as excited as I am.
Oh man, I mean, like if you're from out of town, okay, because we have, let's be honest, we have lots and lots and lots of Bay Area. Most of the people who watch us are Bay Area people. Why? Because we talk about Bay Area sports, but a lot of them are also Bay Area people that moved, and they used to listen to Damon on KMBR, or listen to me on KMBR, or listen to Damon on 95.7 The Game. And so they, we're giving them kind of their, kind of like, hey, I'm on YouTube, but I feel like I'm still in the market. So that's kind of cool for a lot of people. But yeah, I mean, there's no question that if you're coming from wherever USA, fill in the blank, Chicago, Illinois, the Bears are coming out. Is that game here? That game's here, right? Bears. Yeah. So you're a Bears fan. You're in Chicago and you're coming on out late in the year to see your Bears and Caleb get smacked around, hopefully, by the Niners. Well, guess what? You want to come out here. You don't want to just come out to California and go to some, Subway sandwich or something. I mean, you want to go somewhere that's cool and that's like kind of like synonymous with the area, or that has like some like a cool environment, or what's it called? You know what
you want to do, Larry? You want to go to a place.
You want a cool vibe. You want to
not be treated like a tourist. You want to go to a touristy type of place without the touristy type of experience
or price.
Sam's Chowder House is absolutely delicious. It sits on the water, and yeah, there are a lot of visitors in there, but there's also a ton of family from Half Moon Bay. There's a ton of people from all over the Bay. This is not a tourist trap restaurant. It is a fabulous restaurant.
It's a jewel. It's on the water, and you can sit there on the patio.
It's the best.
And drink beers and eat, fried oysters. I mean, you can, or raw oysters or baked oysters, like we just had the other day. We had oysters Rockefeller with the great Sam himself as we sat there at Sam's Chowder House. The owner of Sam's Chowder House dined with us. But yeah,
Paul.
I love Paul.
Paul owns Sam's.
Paul, yeah. Paul is the owner of Sam's.
Is gone now, but
he's might as well be called Sam.
Yes. Sam, I am. Anyways,
it's an awesome restaurant, and it's everybody. Like, what I would want if you're watching this and you're in Chicago and you're coming out later this year, you're in Philly, wherever you're coming out. Come out. You're going to fly in on probably a Friday. Go on a Saturday, especially in the fall, to Half Moon Bay, and go walk along the beach. Take in that great West Coast sea air. We have phenomenal September, October weather, so it's going to be absolutely perfect.
That's our summertime.
75 to 90 degrees. It's going to be ideal, absolutely ideal. Then you walk up to Sam's, you have a couple beers, you have some seafood, You sit there on the patio and watch the waves break. It's hard to beat, Damon. And then you do that on a Saturday, call it a night, and then get ready for game day on Sunday. And to me, you will be flying back to Chicago going, you know what? That was a killer weekend.
We cannot guarantee a 49ers win. We guarantee a winning moment at Sam's Chowder House for sure. We're so happy to have them on board. We'll be talking about them all year long. Like and subscribe so you don't miss any wake ups all year long. Larry and I are going to be at it 3 days a week, co-streaming on both of our channels. So if you're watching for me, go over and like and subscribe over there, vice versa. Thank you very much. It's all coming together here for sure. I'll tell you who had himself a really important night last night. Larry,
let's talk about it.
Presley Harvin. This guy should be punting for someone. I mean, he is sand wedge lobbing balls inside the 10-yard line. Beautiful punts. Obviously, Wishnowski's job is assured when he's healthy again. But Presley Harvin is going to be punting for somebody in this league. And that's what preseason football is all about. Like, you might not even make the team whose uniform you're wearing right now, but you put the right performance on tape, someone will come find you and get you. I think Presley Harvin is an NFL punter, Larry, don't you?
He definitely looks like he's got the big leg. Now, he does sit behind Mitch Wishnowski, who was a 4th-round pick, who's a really good punter. Mitch is going nowhere as long as he's healthy. And also, Mitch is just the money guy inside the 20. He can really drop it in there and all kinds of spin. So, but yeah, no, I mean, Presley Harvin, you know what I think about when I see the Niners in a year like this year, where they have Mitch Wishnowski, and then here comes Presley Harvin. I think to myself, where was Presley Harvin when, all those years they had, lousy punters? It's like now they actually have 2 really good punters. They've got Mitch, who's probably one of the best in the game, and then they've got this guy who's got a booming leg and looks like he's got decent touch. So, it's sometimes you have an abundance of riches. Sometimes you can't find that left-handed reliever. Sometimes you got 9 left-handed relievers, and it's like in football, it's the same way. Sometimes you don't have a punter. This year, the Niners actually have 2 viable punters. So I can't imagine that Harvin will make the team unless Wishnowski's hurt. But I got to think that Harvin's going to be, getting a job somewhere because that is a talented punter. He's got a huge leg.
Other guys who flash in this game, and this is some important rookie flashes, I think, for the 49ers. We already talked about how good Dominic Puni looked. Renardo Green had a really nice pass breakup on a 3rd down. He's
real.
He's comfortable. Rookies look sometimes uncomfortable. He looks comfortable. Malik Mustafa is as comfortable as can be on a football field. He put a woo hit on Olave, just came right up, closed the distance between him and his pads and just whooped him. That guy is a player. Curtis Robinson, I thought, had another pretty good standout game. Jalen Graham, he sacked Spencer Rattler late in the game. Really nice play out of him. Some young guys did pop and flash in the game for sure. Jair Brown blew
monster.
up Taysom Hill. I mean, blew him up. Oh, right on the goal line right there. That was a beautiful play. And then you hear all the news that Talanoa Hufanga is close to returning. And man, I'm starting to look at this secondary, Larry. This is the strength of the team. It literally might be the strength of the team, this team secondary.
A lot of good players, a lot of good young players. I mean, if you think about it, at safety, you had Jair Brown, good young player. You had Hufanga, good young player. And then you added Malik Mustafa and Jalen Mahoney, who's not even bad. He's probably going to be a practice squad guy this year, but, that's pretty good right there. And even Tracy Walker, I think, has looked pretty good in a couple games. And then at corner, my goodness. Womack, Luter, Yadam, Renardo Green, not to mention Demo, Rock Yassin, Mooney Ward. They just got dudes. They got all guys, stack them, pack them, and rack them. You got a bunch of guys. And I hope they don't, deplete that depth. I would try to retain all my quality corner depth. And that means taking 7 corners, which is 1 or 2 too many, which means you're going to have to be really lean the rest of your roster if you do that. But I would. I would not cut this. I would
So
not cut any of these corners. I mean,
so where are you cutting
wouldn't.
from? Where are you cutting from to retain 7 corners?
I'm having 2 tight ends. I'm having 2 quarterbacks. I'm having, 3 or 4, 3 backup offensive linemen instead of 4. I'm having maybe 9 defensive linemen instead of 10. Yeah, I'm maybe having 5 linebackers instead of 6. I'm trying to steal from Peter to, pay Paul kind of a situation. But like, look at those corners. Like last year, the 49ers had depth at corner in camp. They had Deshaun Jameson. He was a rookie undrafted guy out of Texas. And they cut him. And they kept Matt Pryor and all these donkey offensive linemen back. Stunk. And 3 weeks in, they needed Jameson. The rest of the year, they were signing corners off the street. Like literally every other day, every other week, there was a new guy that was standing in the locker room. Oh, this guy signed up. That guy signed up. Who was the guy? Logan Ryan late in the year. I mean, they ran out. So once you lose, when you lose your corner depth, you've lost tons. So this is what they got now: Mooney, Lenore, Yadam. Those are probably their top 3. Then you got Renardo Green, 2nd round pick. He's not going to, he's making the team. So that's 4 right there. I thought Luter and Womack have played really, really good. That's 6. And then you got Rock Ya-Sin, who's played amazingly. I mean, I think Rock Ya-Sin looks very, very good. So, and then and that's 7. And we're still cutting. What about Ambry Thomas?
He's gone.
He's either cut or maybe he's on the PUP or maybe he's on the IR or something. He's hurt right now. So there's also Chase Lucas, is a tremendous special teamer. So they're just so deep there. But I would try to keep my depth at corner if I could, just because when they, 2 guys get hurt and then all of a sudden you need a corner and it's 3 weeks from now. That's how you get into that Brian Allen situation where the guy they signed on Wednesday to take on Fitzpatrick and the Dolphins, and he just absolutely roasted them.
Right. Yeah.
Remember that guy?
Look, I really think that the NFL should do itself a favor in its next CBA and grow the game day roster, expand rosters to carrying 60 players on game day. It would make continuity, therefore the product, therefore it's better. I don't know why the NFL, which is touting the Dallas Cowboys being the first franchise to ever be valued at over $10 billion. Why isn't this league allowing teams to thrive unto themselves more? I just don't understand it. This
money. You're right. I mean, they should offer lifetime medical care to everybody who plays it down. They should have 75-man rosters instead of 53-man rosters. They should have, 75-man, the 90-man, like the Niners right now. Like, there's a weird vibe around their camp. Why? Because they have 90 guys in camp. They're going to cut their roster down to 53, but they have 23 guys who are hurt right now. So virtually every guy that's on the Niners roster is going to make the team. I mean, not really, but basically, because because you're gonna have a bunch of injured guys, and then maybe you'll pick up a couple other guys from other teams. So like a lot of these guys that are like, hey, it's on the bubble, it's this guy or that guy. Well, they're probably both gonna make it, somehow, some way, either on some list, either the PUP list, the IR list, they may redshirt. They're not gonna I'll tell you right now. They're not going to cut Isaac Guerrero. They're not going to cut him. I don't think they will. But I think there's a very good chance that they could, try to say that he's hurt. Put him on IR, right, so they don't lose him. Redshirt him.
It's an agreed upon wink and a smile roster manipulation that I think all teams sort of have. Well, I guess my whole point is let's cut out the masquerade fake injury bullshit and just leave teams the opportunity to retain talented players to either A, develop, or B, be worked into the mix as the attrition of any NFL season goes along. I don't think there's any logic to saying we are staying with the same number of rostered spots while we expand the number of opportunities to go get catastrophically injured by adding more games almost by the year now. I mean, they want to get from 17 to 18 games. The minute they go to 18, the conversation will turn to 20. It's going to happen. So,
it's coming. It's coming. Yeah. And because we love it. We absolutely love it.
Right.
And eventually, the people that run the NFL are going to understand that secondary football leagues don't work if they don't have the right branding and can't fail with the proper branding. You know what I mean? When they finally come up with NFL 2, whatever you want to call it, and there's a Sacramento Niners and there's a, Indianapolis Bears and, all these, or not Indianapolis Bears, but, smaller towns.
Right. The Decatur, the Decatur Bears, to pay tribute to the old Decatur Staleys.
Right. Or, the West Lafayette Colts or something like that. They'll be minor league teams, but they'll be associated with the NFL teams. That is going to absolutely dominate because people would rather watch guys who might be on their football team in the spring than baseball. That's where baseball is. Baseball is totally secondary. I love baseball, but most people love football.
We're different. Here's the thing.
And no, I'm 54. My kids like baseball, but they don't love baseball. And I think there's a lot of people out there that love football that don't love any other sport but football. And are they sports fans? No, they're football fans. So if you gave them spring football, guess what they would watch? As long as the Niners, as long as it was tied directly to their team, they would watch. So another guy we didn't talk about. We didn't talk about Tatum Bethune. My God. Tatum Bethune, Damon, is another guy that has to be discussed at this point. He ran a relatively slow 40 time. But if you look at his football career at Florida State, all the guy did was make tackles. The first couple weeks of camp, he was like, where was he? He wasn't even on the field. And then suddenly, this guy is showing up at the football every play. And it's amazing watching it. He's definitely been the leading tackler in camp the last 10 days. Just my naked eye tells me that. He was their leading tackler in the Titans game last week with, I think, 8 tackles. And he had 10 tackles, 6 solo, and a TFL last night against the Saints. Tatum Bethune. I mean, Curtis Robinson is having a tremendous camp. And Jalen Graham, I thought, had the best game of his life last night. But Bethune has 18 tackles in 2 games, and it's hard to cut guys who always show up around the football, even if they're maybe liability in pass coverage or, as a liability, in the passing game, I should say.
Is he on the roster? Is he going to make this? Again, we're running out of room. Just because a guy has a good preseason doesn't mean he's necessarily on this roster. But like you said, he's been doing it in practice too. This isn't something that Shanahan just saw on the game film. He sees it every day when he goes in and looks at practice film. How do you keep a guy that you really like when you're running out of roster spots? You can't have Bethune and Garendo, and I know we're talking about different sides of the ball, but we're also talking about fitting in 53 men.
Well, you're probably going to go, maybe you go 5 linebackers, Fred Warner, Devondre Campbell. D. Winters didn't play last night because of injury, but maybe you go with those 2 starters, Warner and Campbell, and then maybe 3 out of Winters, Robinson, Flanagan, Fowles, Bethune, and Graham. And I'd probably go with Robinson, Graham, and Winters.
When you watch the game, watch the heartbeat. Watch the heartbeat on all of Flanagan Fowles. The ball is snapped, and he stands in his ready stance for a solid. Everybody on the defense is moving, and like he was analyzing. I thought he was just a step slow. I don't know if Flanagan Fowles is on this team. Certainly, if you're keeping Bethune, he's not.
Yeah, to me, it's the big revelation at linebacker has been that Curtis Robinson is just absolutely taking it to the next level. So
he really has played well.
He looks great. I mean, Curtis Robinson was a special teamer. He's no longer a special teamer. So that's the one thing. If you're sitting there going, well, why would Curtis Robinson? What? He's been absolutely fantastic. He went to Stanford. He's got the athletic measurables. It's all come together for him, and he's wearing the green dot.
Fred Warner get hurt. Seriously.
He's Fred the Warner, backup Mike. Right.
I think that Fred Warner is about to have a defensive player of the year level season. I really do. I think he's about to have a monster year. But if something were to happen to that guy, Curtis Robinson looks like he could get you through a season.
Yeah. I mean, Curtis Robinson is really good. And Jalen Graham is damn good. I mean, I hope people saw that last night. I mean, that to me, that's the other guy that has been beneath the radar. Jalen Graham is a phenomenal player. I mean, he had a big preseason last year and then just got banished. And he was like in the locker room. He was all, I talked to him a bunch, and he's sitting there chomping on an apple. And we talked, growing up in Detroit, and he's a great kid. He just never played. And I think it burned the Niners late in the year. I mean, Jalen Graham is fast and instinctive, and the Niners couldn't stop the run, and they never gave this guy a shot. So it was just ridiculous to watch as the season progressed. And sure enough, they couldn't stop the run in the playoffs, and ultimately became part of their undoing. But Graham is big time, and he had 6 tackles last night. 4 of them were solo. He had a sack. I think he really more had like a sack and a half, because he had 1 sack that he combined on, and he had another sack. He had a TFL. He had a hit on the quarterback. I mean, Jalen Graham is really playing well. Saved a touchdown in that Titans game last week. So, I'm really excited. Between Graham, Bethune, Curtis Robinson, man, they've got some. And Greenlaw will probably be back in, December. You got Fred Campbell played decently last night, so we'll see. I'm a little nervous about Campbell, to be honest, Damon, but I love the rest of that linebacking core.
I thought there was a decent flash or two from Jordan Elliott. Yatir Gross-Matos also came around the corner and really made Derek Carr uncomfortable a couple of times. Good to see that, because we haven't seen much of them flashing so far. Look, that was a defense last night that was basically playing without everybody. No Bosa, no Leonard, no Floyd, Warner, Lenore, Hargrave, Malik Collins, Drake Greenlaw, obviously, wasn't in that game. I thought it was a decent defensive performance for the most part. There were also times where Mark Sanchez even said it. He's like, I don't care who's out on the field, you never want to be giving up an 11-yard pop to an 8-man box. And Taysom Hill gashed him, just running downhill on them a few times. Again, you shouldn't get angry at anything in a preseason game, because half those guys on that field won't be on the field when it matters. But
I mean, the Saints only scored 10 points. The one thing that's pretty clear, if you looked at the scores around the preseason, the first couple of weeks, is that, man, when you take a little bit of the quality away and mix in some of the depth like you do in the preseason, nobody can score. Suddenly there's no offense. I mean, I would say there was I'd say 85% of the games this weekend, there was one team that scored in the teens. I mean, the Niners game was 16-10. There's a lot of bad. Offensive football, you need a little continuity, and you don't have a lot of continuity in August. But yeah, no, the Saints, the Saints have decent roster, right? I mean, they played Derek Carr. They have Spencer Rattler and Jake Hayner battling for that number 2 job. They only averaged 3.8 a carry for the game. Now, Jamal Williams went for 6.4 a carry, and James Robinson went for 5.4 a carry. So that's a little bit more concerning. But overall, the Saints were 3.8 a carry. The Niners ran for 4.2 a carry. And the Saints do have some damn good receivers. Chris Olave, A.T. Perry. There's some decent players there. I would say the Saints are probably a mid-pack team that could be a wild card team in the NFC. I don't think they're spectacular, but they're pretty solid. They're representative defensively, especially.
And they're in a slightly winnable division. So there you go. That division feels like it's up for grabs for a few teams. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, probably the favorite there. They're a Baker Mayfield injury away from not being talked about. So
I like Atlanta in that division this year. I just think that Atlanta is the team to watch in that NFC South. I mean,
I would agree, but then again, you have to factor in it's also the Atlanta Falcons. Nothing ever goes well or right, not ever. So there's also
you do have on offense Kirk Cousins at quarterback, Bijan Robinson at running back, Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Ray are your receivers. One of the NFC's better offensive lines. Defensively, they just traded for Matthew Judon, and they've got Onyemata, Grady Jarrett inside. I don't know. We'll see. Atlanta, I think, is Jesse Bates is on the back end there. Atlanta, I think, is going to be the class of that division this year. We'll see.
One more just note, and then I think I'm out of notes from the preseason game on Sunday against the Saints, is Alex Barrett is a guy who's just been like clawing onto the bottom rung of the Niners roster. He's a constant presence on the practice squad. I think he's one of the longest tenured Niners. Alex Barrett, he straight up ripped the ball away from Spencer Rattler and had what in any other moment might have been the play of the game. The way that he just took the ball away from Rattler when he sacked him. And I thought that was a really nice moment for a guy who has been on the team a long time, hasn't had a lot of moments to share with anybody. So good for Alex Barrett there. And that's it. Like, again, the preseason cannot end fast enough. The 49ers need to end it as healthy as possible. And I think that the biggest winners of last night were Trent Williams and Brandon Aiyuk. And it's time to get both of those guys paid, whatever, get them in, figure it all out on the back end. Doesn't matter. What did I hear that the Niners have officially put a $30 million figure on the field, or is that an unofficial rumor that I've seen?
I don't know, but I mean, if that's ultimate caving right there. If they are, and here's I'm a little, if that is indeed accurate, I'm a little hacked off, and I think all the Niner fans should be as well. It's August freaking 19th. So all of this was a big song and dance. And you were eventually going to cave. If you were going to cave in the middle of August, then you really blew this negotiation because caving, what did you get? What did you get for all of this? You got a receiver that is now could very likely be susceptible to soft tissue injuries. I'd say it's highly likely that Brandon Aiyuk, even if he signs, has some kind of soft tissue problem that delays him or derails him a little bit in the first month. And what did you get for it? You're still paying the guy $30 million. You've created bad blood. You've set a new precedent for paying guys on the fifth-year option instead of having them play on the fifth-year option. What did you get out of this? I'd love to know what the 49ers got out of this negotiation, if they indeed are going to cave in the 11th hour and give this guy $30 million. I'd love to know what they feel like they achieved.
All of your questions are legitimate, and your anger at the situation, it's not unfounded either. Like, I get it. I absolutely get what you're saying, but I do, more than anything else, think it's time to put all ego aside and the tick of we won this negotiation, you lost this negotiation. Everyone wants to present that. I don't fucking care.
Nobody does at this point.
Doesn't look good. You need your best wide receiver. I can see that with my own two eyes. You need your best offensive lineman. I can see that with my own two eyes. All of this, as you and I have said in 1,000 shows, should have been settled long ago. But for whatever reason, it wasn't. And now here we are. And here comes the season. And the way you wanted to do it and now the way you have to do it are two totally different things. So it's time to drop everybody's ego off at the door and make sure that two of your most important pieces are on this team when you start playing football for real. I mean, that Brandon Aiyuk is needed. He's needed. $30 million, is it too much? Maybe or maybe not. An argument could be made either way.
I would argue that it is a lot of money, and it is a little bit of a projection. But if you're going to sit there and talk my ear off endlessly about efficiency, then don't take the most efficient receiver and not value him. I mean, right. if you're going to sit there and we're going to hire 19 dorks from Harvard and Brown to be in our analytics department, but we're not going to listen to the analytics.
Right.
I mean, why have an analytics department if the most efficient receiver is going to sit there and be told, yeah, but your numbers aren't quite as good. You're running the ball the most. You're passing the ball the least. Yeah, his numbers are not quite as good. Your pace of play is 28th in the NFL. That right there is a drag on his production. You have McCaffrey, Kittle, all these other weapons. That's a drag on his production. So you've got like 3 or 4 legitimate things that have nothing to do with Brandon that are all dragging on his production. And you're going to sit there and say, we don't want to pay you because you're not quite as productive as we want. I mean, you're almost like incentivizing greed and dysfunction. You're almost incentivizing me over we. It's football. You're a running team. He's a great run blocker. And all you can do is say, well, he's not as good as this guy. He's not as good as that guy. He's more efficient than Tyreek Hill was on pass plays 20 yards down the field. He was the most efficient deep ball receiver in pro football. So, yeah, I don't like his tactics. I don't like his, Jaden Daniels can take me to the next level. Why? And Brock Purdy can't. I mean, that was stupid. That was just stupid. But
look at it this way.
That's just a guy backing his buddy.
There seems to be no tangible football reason to move on from this guy. So then it would come back to like personality or fit of personalities, locker room, that sort of thing. And there was never a peep that Brandon Aiyuk has been anything other than a great teammate. So maybe it was the offseason tomfoolery and the Instagramming of Jaden and all that. Like, here's the thing. You had your chance to big boy this in the big boy direction. If you wanted it to, you didn't. The 49ers had 2 roads to walk down. They really didn't walk down either of them. And Brandon Aiyuk, I think, is going to get what he wants to remain on a team that is best for his career. Maybe not statistically, but financially and competitively, the 49ers are best for his career. And it all comes out in the wash. And if everyone wins the Super Bowl, we'll never talk about this shit. Not for a single day, never again in our lives. Never.
We hope.
So
we hope. It has been a tiresome deal. And then the Niners like, well, we started early. Well, obviously not early enough because it's the 19th of August and your guy's still not signed. But we'll see. The whole trade thing was so nauseating. And if it comes about, I'm going to be really rankled because it's just like, well, the Steelers don't want to trade this player. They don't want to trade that player. They only want to trade picks. Well, picks didn't work for the Niners. So if
I'll say this.
I don't even know why you would even entertain a discussion based on picks when you know that if you got a bevy of picks, the very first thing is Trent Williams is pissed and the players are pissed and the fans are pissed. So
on a night where the 49ers did nothing to show, we're a special offense that everyone would want to be a part of.
Better in Pittsburgh.
Go back and watch that Steelers game, dude. You want to join that offense? You want to join Justin Fields, who is spraying it everywhere, and Russell Wilson, who is trying to be Mr. Unlimited. I mean, good luck with that. If that's really what you want, go ahead, get that. But yeah, I don't think you really want it. I don't think he really wanted it to begin with. I just think he wanted his money where he is, and I do. Now I hope he gets it because let me tell you, Parag Marathe suffers. Will not injure himself when he signs that check. Brandon Aiyuk could injure himself at any point in time. So he deserves the money. He might not be the best wide receiver, but he's your best wide receiver. And the best wide receivers on football teams are now making $30 million a year. I know it sounds like an awful lot because it is to guys like you and me, but it's about to become normal. One wide receiver on this team makes $30 million is about to be how every single team in football functions.
It still makes no sense. I mean, if you really think about it, it makes no sense. You're going to pay Debo $28 million. You're going to pay Aiyuk $30 million. So you're going to basically have almost $60 million in receivers. You know what? You throw the ball less than any other team in pro football. I mean, it's like, what? make it make sense. I mean, seriously.
Here's the thing. Let me help you make sense. Every single guy on the field should equally, if you're a starter in the NFL, you should make $30 million at every single position. At every position, all these teams could afford to pay that and then some. All the teams in the NFL could afford to pay the last guy on the roster $30 million a year. These teams are worth billions. They have the money. This is an argument over who gets to keep
these
it.
Are toys. These are not these arguments don't touch each other. They don't connect. You know what I mean? Yes. Is football the most popular sport in America? Does football make a ridiculous amount of money? Yeah. Should every player make X? Yeah. I mean, well before that, how about, I don't know, since it's super violent, how about just like basic health care? Maybe we could start there and work up, you know what I mean? Now, let's give everybody health care and then we'll worry about, making them $20 million. But I basically agree. The sport is the biggest, most popular sport in this country by a huge margin. People ask me all the time, especially when I go to the Giants games, how come your first year of your channel, you talk tons of Giants, and now here you are in year 3 of your channel and you don't talk very much Giants at all? And it's like, well, because I'm doing this for money, and the Giants audience size, is small.
Borderline non-existent compared to the 49ers audience size.
Yeah. Here's me I'm now the Giants audience. Oh, now I'm the Niners audience.
Oh, I'm back.
Now I'm the Giants audience.
Oh, now I'm the Niners.
Oh, I'm a Niners. So you're starting to get me. The Giants, it just doesn't move the needle, and the Warriors only slightly better. So football is it for sure. And football is just so enormously popular and getting more popular every year that goes by. I mean, that's why the NFL revenue pie is literally the healthiest revenue pie of almost any industry in the world. I mean, how many industries have gone from a $7 billion industry to like a $27 billion industry in like a 12-year span? The NFL.
I can only apply my own experiences to what I know about how, corporate America works. The reason why radio is on its decline is because they can show you on a graph paper, they do not have the money to pay people the way they used to pay people based on cost of doing business and money coming into the business. Everything has changed. The way that the NFL went from a $7 billion pie to a $21 billion pie, radio, just to use the same numbers again, went from a $21 billion pie to a $7 billion pie. That's how that worked. So I understand the gutting and the cheapskate nature of that industry. There is no reason for the NFL to have any cheapskate nature about it. They have enough money to pay everybody wildly well in all directions. We're talking about assistant coaches. We're talking about parking lot attendants. We're talking about everybody. The NFL has the everybody got tipped out level of cash every day.
And where you see it, where you see it, if you're sitting there going, describe to me like where I see an example of that. Black Monday. As soon as the NFL season is over, that first Monday at the end of the NFL season before the playoffs start, when the teams that missed the playoffs fire all their coaches guess what? They fire the head coach and then they pay off all the assistants to go away. Because have you noticed that almost no new NFL head coach ever inherits all the coaches? He always gets to pick his coaches. Why? Because they pay these guys off. That's what Jed did. He paid off Harbaugh's staff. Then he paid off Tom Sula's staff. Then he paid off Chip Kelly's staff. Probably spent $25 million in 3 years paying off assistant coaches, failed coaching staff. So that's all possible because of the NFL's massive revenue pie. They get so much general fund money that they can afford to kind of make their mistakes go away, and every team does now. So, you don't like Steve Wilkes after 1 year. You paid him 2 years. Who cares? Let him sit on the couch next year and collect checks, and get him out anyway. So that's kind of where we're at. There's so much money in the sport, and you're totally right, Damon. As far as like the NFL has revenue, and there's revenue streams that they're just now dipping their toe into, like gambling, that are going to be enormously profitable for them in the years and decades ahead. So, they're doing incredibly well, and hopefully, and they're graduating from their mom and pop roots every year. There's some mom and pop root thing that they used to have from the 40s and 50s and 60s that they throw away, and now they do it differently. They'll probably get rid of the chain gang within a year, right? And they'll go to the
way, let me just
digital
say
chain
the implementation of this new digital technology, chop. I mean, my God, that took way too long to figure out where the ball would be spotted. So this new Hawkeye technology can be a part of it. Like, that needs to be streamlined. I get it's the preseason for everybody, but man, that was bad. Preseason challenges should be outlawed. I don't need any play challenged in a preseason game. What
Amen to that. No preseason challenges.
Come on.
Kyle Shanahan can challenge in the preseason. He just can't challenge in the NFC Championship game against the Eagles. Is that how that goes? I mean, seriously, we're challenging what? To make people in the summertime spend a half hour less at home? I mean, what are we doing? I saw the challenge, and I'm like, what the hell? I will say this, though. One other thought on the preseason. I'd love to hear your thoughts, Damon, on if you watched any of these other games or if you have any other thoughts on any other team around the league, because I have noticed I have been watching quite a bit around the league. And, I watched Buffalo-Pittsburgh the other night, and I'll tell you right now, Justin Fields stinks, and Russell Wilson is done. And I know he went 8 of 10, and that's 80%, and that looks good. It was for 47 yards. Fields was running around for his life. I mean, it's like the Steelers looked so freaking awful offensively on Friday night against Buffalo. It's like if Aiyuk was watching that, how could he want to go there? And then the other
Chicago Bears,
the Bears
and the joy of Illinois.
The Bears are playing well. Caleb, 6 of 13, 75 yards. He was sacked once. He ran once for 7 yards.
You had to see,
but I like the resourcefulness of Caleb as a passer. He looks good, and they've got a good young core.
I got excited about the Chicago Bears for the first time in a long time. Just watching a little preseason football. I even had to tell myself, calm down, Damon. Calm down. Don't go fanboying here. But it was exciting. There were some texts that came in. There were some people that I talked to. So yeah, that was good to see. The number one pick in the draft. You had a lot of number one pickish in the draft talent on display in the game that he just played this weekend. So that was good. And that's really the only other game that I watched. It's been a very busy weekend. Mentally preparing Jack for kindergarten has been a full-time job for a week now. And let me tell you, the satisfaction I'm getting as a parent, Larry, for having that mental preparation all pay off today. We started a little later than normal today because I was dropping off my son with my wife at his first day of kindergarten, and my man answered the bell. He really did.
What did he do last year? What did he do last year? Did he go to junior K or did he go to preschool?
He's a pre-K. He was at pre-K that his brother.
So you kind of some kids kindergarten's really the beginning, like the real beginning. So that's a big difference.
Look, again, he's been coming up the ranks. He was, we're not having him fight tomato cans and bums. He's coming up the ranks the right way, Larry, before he's ready for his heavyweight title shot. But my man took a big step today. Very, very proud of my guy.
Way to go, Jack. Way to go. Pretty soon it'll be, if this goes the way my kids raising went, roughly 45 minutes from now, he'll be asking for car keys. And a 20 spot because he's taking his girlfriend for ice cream.
Oh, you're going to that. I'm going to need a 50.
Yeah, seriously.
20, it's like not buying 2 scoops of ice cream by the time my son's dating. He's gonna need a 50.
There's one thing when you go to I went to all my kids' high school football games and all my kids' high school baseball games. The one thing that I always made sure that I did on the way to high school football, stop at the ATM and get some cash, because as soon as you see your kid at the end of the high school football game, the first thing he's going to say to you is, "Dad, Dad, I need some cash. I'm going out to eat with my buddies and my girl. I need some cash. So you
Larry,
gotta,
Matt Gillum is good Lord, Damon is unintelligent. What?
Just out of the blue. How do you know that? That could be true, but how do you know that?
What is the triggering sentence that made you think unintelligent guy? What me talking proudly about my son going to kindergarten makes you think, you know what? I'm going to get my fingers out, put him on this keyboard and try to motherfuck this proud father who dropped his kid off at school today. What's going on?
That's so wrong.
Unintelligent. Like, it could be better than that.
Come on. You can be better than that. How about this one? Wait a second. I got Colley's Werve. I can top your thing with this one. Kruger, you don't know Dick. No, I do know Dick. Dick Vitale is a good friend of mine. Dick Paul. Dickie V. He's my diaper dandy, Dipsy Doodle diaper dandy, baby. J.R. Reed. He's my diaper dandy, all American, baby. I love Dickie V. He's been battling cancer for years. Hopefully he beats it.
Here we go. This is my kind of insulting right here. Damon is a toilet bug.
Damn toilet bugs.
Those damn toilet bugs are all over the place. Hey, Larry, what do you got in terms of starred chats? Let's get through them. And
three stars here. We got Mike Baker says, can Ronnie Bell and Danny Gray catch anything? Well, Ronnie Bell absolutely can, but he had a rough game.
Yeah, they're both going to be catching opportunities to catch on with another NFL team real soon. I don't think either guy's on the roster.
Yeah. You know what would be awesome is if you could merge those two guys. If somehow you could take Ronnie Bell and Danny Gray and put them together and have the speed of Danny Gray, but the hands and ball skills of Ronnie Bell, you'd have something. But you can't do it.
Would you want him to then be named Ronnie Gray or Danny Bell?
Ronnie Gray.
Okay.
Ronnie Gray sounds fast.
Ronnie Gray is moving.
Dude, did you see Ronnie Gray last night? Greg Argisi says, Larry, have you asked Tanner out for pig and a pickle? I have. We're going Dutch. 49er Talk Show says Tanner Mordecai looked like he had Brock Purdy shaking in his boots a little bit on the sidelines. He was extremely accurate and poised. He looks like a QB1.
I'm not ready to join anyone there.
He looks good.
Way too excited.
He looks good. I will say that Tanner Mordecai did look good. I did ask Brock in the post game about Mordecai, and he did kind of smile because I asked Brock about him the other day, and he's like, "Man, Tanner can rip it, man." There is something real about. I'll just say this, and I would sum it up this way. I get you guys all who are like, "Crew, get a life." I get it. That's fine. Yeah, I deserve it. I deserve it. I can wear it. I'm a big enough boy. I can wear it. But I will say this. If it really just came down to simplifying, and if you just made the conversation as simple as this, Tanner Mordecai, something or nothing, I would just say something. That's all. I would say he's something more than nothing. Because most of the guys in his spot, let's be honest, are nothing, right? They're nothing. And they're never going to be anything. And I get that. I don't think this guy's nothing. I think this guy's something.
There's more to explore in Tanner Mordecai.
Joe Schmo says kindergarten rules. Jack will love it. We got Ghost Sos says kids will be gone in the blink of an eye.
That's what I keep hearing.
It really is true. Man. It really is true. I have 4 kids. My youngest is 14, and he's now playing freshman football. And so he comes home every day with new, gashed arm and bruised this and torn skin and this and that, and my hip feels funny and my legs bent funny.
Like football practice.
Yeah, seriously, he's getting chewed up and beat up pretty good. And it hurts his mom for sure to see him every day because he's still the baby, right? He's still the baby of the family, so she's like, "Oh my God, look at his bruise." I'm like, "Yeah, it's football, honey. He's gonna have more. It's 100% injury situation." I always tell my kid, you're going to get hurt. Do you want to still play? If you say, oh, I won't get hurt. No, you're going to get hurt. Do you still want to play? Yes, I still want to play. Okay, as long as you know that. But yeah, so all I would say is that I go by Damon's house and I see, the crayons and the little army men and the dinosaurs that you get embedded in your feet when you walk and all the different little kid stuff. And I got to be honest, I do miss that. And that those days are very, very sweet. So all I would say is enjoy that. But you know what's the best part about being a dad, at least to this part for me, is when they get to that college age and they go from, I'm kind of interested in this subject to I want to be this. You know what I mean? When they find their calling, there's something that is so cool about being a parent and watching your kid kind of develop a dream and then start chasing it down. It's very, very cool.
I totally believe and buy everything you're selling because it's the moments of development. It's the moments of watching both my boys get it and come into their personalities or understand a joke or recognize a song or something like that. That's where all of the gold is in parenting so far for me. So I love it. I love it.
Look at Kevin in the back.
Kevin, calm down, Dad.
Jesus, Larry, relax.
By the way, Z4, I'll save the other one, but
good.
There's this guy saying, damn, Damon, how old are you? So I know it's the gray. Don't let I'm believe it or not, Larry. See, here's the thing, Larry, you look younger than me. Don't you think?
I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. I think we look kind of about the same age. Right. I am born in 1970.
Right.
So
you're 5 years older than me.
I'm 5 years older.
I'm 49.
And you were my producer in 1995 as
that shows you ever did.
Fresh out of college. Fresh out of college, Damon Bruce, right? Or were you fresh out of college?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, Larry, you were good that night. You're welcome. But
Damon was the producer of the Sports Overnight America with the L Dog and Mr. H, who I haven't seen Mr. H in a long time.
And such a good show, by the way. I knew you were a talented guy all the way back then. I did. And
we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun. And Damon would come in at commercials. I'm going to be something. We'd be like, no, you're not. Get back in there. But yeah. And then you went to ESPN right after that, right?
Just a schmuck on YouTube is all I ever became. Larry, I do. Speaking of this schmuck on YouTube, he's got his own show to do in a few minutes from now is when it's scheduled. And I still got to make myself a pot of coffee so I can get through that. But Wake Up is officially back, boys and girls. Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, it will be happening. Scheduled start time is still a little murky as we settle into new routines over here, but we will be like a rhythm coming to you soon. And I'm going to encourage Larry to start these broadcasts on time. You lazy Larry. We're going to get this up and running. And
I was having some chowder, and what happened? I got a cup of New England and a cup of Manhattan, and you know what? Old Trent Baalke said, I wrote in an envelope, what would it look like if you poured your Manhattan into your other chowder? What would it be like if you mixed your chowders? I thought about that, and I thought, you know what? This is the kind of idiot thought that got my shit fired in San Francisco. And that's why I'm out here in Jacksonville talking to Coach, trying to get things right.
Welcome to Sam's. It's great to have them across as a sponsor. Come on in. We're going to be telling you more about them all season long. We're going to show you some sexy food porn from Sam's at some point in time as well. So get ready for a great football season. The Niners have one more preseason game left, and then September 9th, it all starts for real. Sounds really good to me. What did Adam Amin say? We are 175 days away from the Super Bowl.
This beautiful line from Bay Area Sports 83. He says, my dream is to be a plus-size stripper.
Have a dream.
There we go.
Have a dream.
It doesn't matter what the dream is. Just have a dream.
Have a
dream. You got to dream more. That's my Jeff Kent. Boney M. I don't normally agree with Kruger. I always love people who start text or emails or anything with, I don't normally agree with you. That's if you want to get me to read your tweet or whatever, start that way. I don't normally agree with you. For some reason, that piques my interest. I don't normally agree with Kruger. You need to practice. There's no getting away from it. You can't keep Purdy and Cotton, otherwise take up chess. What?
Although I would like to disagree with you, good sir. My thought process and yours finally align for the very first time. So I shall return. I shall hit like and subscribe to signify this incredible moment of time where we all, but for a fleeting moment, agreed with Larry Kruger. Amazing.
Joseph Ernberg. I don't normally agree with
I don't normally agree with Larry Kruger. But
Iceman. Larry's takes are horrible because he's lazy. Marketing pro, Larry Legend Kruger. Thank you. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us. Damon, what do you got cooking in 10 minutes?
I'm going to have to kind of make it up on the fly. So we'll be going with that.
Gotcha. I'm not sure what I'll be doing the rest of the day. The Niners are off today. I'll be back in Santa Clara tomorrow. I'm sure I'll be watching the game again and doing a little video breakdown. Look for it. I can't thank all of you guys enough. Please hit like and subscribe, by the way, to my channel, to Damon's channel. Support both channels. Damon's over 20,000. I'm approaching, just went over 46,000. So we're approaching 50,000 on this end. And we appreciate every one of you guys. Seriously. If we were seriously without the audience, we're sitting here just talking to ourselves, and we do enough of that on our own time. So anyway, we just appreciate all you guys. Thanks for growing my channel. Thanks for growing Damon's channel. We're gonna have lots and lots and lots of killer content around the Niners. Damon's gonna have a bunch of guys. You mentioned it last time, Lombardi and a bunch of other guys, Barrows and Inman, and a bunch of guys going to be on Damon's channel. I'm going to be doing a bunch of stuff with Niner players, with media people, with, all kinds of, we're going to do lots of out of town stuff this year. So like when the Niners play, Seattle, we're here comes Dave Softy Mahler and 2 or 3 other people from Seattle. We're going to do more of that, but kind of behind enemy lines kind of stuff this year and have a lot of fun. And
wake up is the plan to do that. Wednesdays will be the let's look at the next opponent day.
Yeah,
for wake up.
We did that a lot last year. Actually, we did the Dallas Cowboys announcer together. We had Brad Sham. We had Brad Sham on. And you know what? To me, those are cool. Those are so
more
cool.
Of that this year.
Yeah, more of that for sure. So thanks, guys. Have a great day. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Ike's, of course, for being the title sponsor of Damon Bruce Plus. And thank you to Paul Shankman and all the good people at Sam's Chowder House for saying, you know what, we want to be with Damon and Larry, and we really appreciate them. That we understand you got an option. You can spend your advertising money anywhere you want. We appreciate you spending it with us. So appreciate everybody. For Damon, I'm Larry. Damon, you got a final
thought that you want to share? I wrote down the name Sam's Chowder House. I put it in an envelope, and I just really hoped that maybe, the good people at Sam's would say, yeah.
Well, I couldn't believe it. We went down there to say hello to Paul and ask him if he'd be interested in being a sponsor here. We bumped into Lee Hammer, of all people. He just happened to be there. See, locals come to Sam's. He's down in Half Moon Bay, so of course he came on down to Half Moon Bay. There were clams on a half shell, Half Moon Bay, half shell, half of KMBR's Brain Trust was right there. It was Lee Hammer, everybody.
That's true. We saw Lee Hammer out of nowhere, and Wanda, his wife.
That's right, the lovely Wanda, and Lee was wearing a free golf pullover. Once on the way out the door, I'll just say,
Paul, I've always loved Sam's Chowder House. I've always thought of it as I like to go there vis-a-vis my Miata, but if it was up to me, there would be an exclusive lot just for Miata owners. Just take it, to drink it in, think about it. Don't decide right now. Tell me later. You can call Tate, maybe email Tate. We were very modern. Just a Miata lot for just Miatas.